I wonder where this is going. You just heard that. Not with your ears, with a voice. Your voice. The one narrating your entire life from somewhere behind your eyes. You've had it so long you probably think everyone does. But here's the first strange thing. Some people don't have it at all. No voice, just silence. So where did yours come from? And when, in the long story of our species, did a human first start talking to themselves? The answer is one of the strangest journeys in all of human history, and it ends with a question about who you even are.
Here's the problem. A voice in your head doesn't leave fossils. We can dig up bones, tools, fireplaces. We can't dig up a thought. So to find the origin of the inner voice, we have to follow a trail across 2 million years, starting with a piece of hardware. To talk to yourself, you first need the equipment to talk at all, and that equipment is shockingly old. There's a gene called FOXP2 tied deeply to speech and language. In 2007, scientists sequenced it in Neanderthals and found the modern human version already there, which means the genetic basis for speech is older than our species, older than the split between us and them, maybe 400,000 years ago. Then, in 1989, in a cave in Israel, they found something even more direct, a Neanderthal hyoid bone. That's the little U-shaped bone that anchors your tongue and makes speech possible, and it was virtually identical to yours. So the machine for speech was built long before anyone was posting about it. But a machine that can speak is not the same as a mind that talks to itself. That took something else.
And this is where it gets personal, because the real origin of your inner voice isn't hiding in a cave 200,000 years ago. It's hiding in something you did and then forgot when you were about 4 years old.
In the 1930s, a Russian psychologist named Lev Vygotsky watched something every parent has seen and nobody thinks twice about. Little kids narrate themselves out loud. Okay, put the red block here. No, not there, there. Talking to no one. Vygotsky realized this wasn't random chatter. He called it private speech, and it does a job. It's how a child learns to steer their own behavior. It peaks around ages 4 to 7, and then it goes quiet.
But it doesn't disappear. It goes underground. The out-loud voice becomes a silent one. The child stops whispering instructions and starts thinking them. That silent voice is inner speech. And here's the part that gets me every time. It was built out of other people's voices. Think about it. Before you could talk to yourself, someone talked to you. Be careful. Slow down. You can do this. You took those voices, your parents, your teachers, and you turned them inward. Your inner monologue is, in a real sense, everyone who ever raised you, still talking. So the inner voice is inherited. Every human child rebuilds it from scratch, which raises an unhinged question. Was there a time when adults didn't have it either? When nobody did?
Okay, I have to be honest before this next part. What I'm about to tell you is not accepted science. It's one of the most controversial ideas in psychology, but it's too fascinating to skip. In 1976, a psychologist named Julian Jaynes published a book with a wild claim. He argued that as recently as 3,000 years ago, humans were not conscious the way we are. They had no inner I. Instead, Jaynes said when an early human needed to make a decision, they didn't think it through in a private voice. They heard it as a command, an external voice, which they experienced as a god. He called this the bicameral mind, one half of the brain issuing orders, the other half obeying, with no self in between. In his story, the voice in your head today is what's left over after those gods went quiet, after we learned to recognize the voice as ours.
Now, most scientists think Jaynes went way too far, and the evidence isn't there. But strip away the wildest part, and a quieter version survives. The felt sense of an inner I, narrating in a voice you own, may be far more recent and more fragile than it feels.
Which brings us all the way back to now, and to the people with no voice at all.
For most of history, we just assumed everyone's mind sounded like ours. Then, in 2024, 2 researchers, Nedergaard and Lupyan, actually tested it, and they found that inner speech runs on a spectrum from a non-stop narrator to complete silence. They gave the silence a name, Anendophasia, no inner voice. And it's not rare. People with little to no inner speech aren't broken. They think in images, in feelings, in pure abstraction. But the study found small trade-offs. They did a bit worse on tasks like holding a string of words in memory or judging whether 2 words rhyme. The voice, it turns out, does real work, and some minds simply do that work another way. Even now, scientists are still arguing about how many people truly have no voice at all.
So, when did ancient humans start talking to themselves? The honest answer is we don't fully know. The hardware is hundreds of thousands of years old. The habit is rebuilt in every childhood. The feeling of a private I might be only a few thousand years old, or it might be a spectrum that not everyone even lands on. But here's what all of it points to. The voice you think of as the most you thing about you, the one you assumed you were born with, the one you assumed everyone shares, is none of those things. It was assembled, in your childhood, out of the voices of the people who raised you. It's so new that our species may have spent most of its existence without it. And somewhere out there, right now, are people living a rich, full life with no voice in their head at all.
You didn't invent the voice in your head. You inherited it. From your parents, from your species, from a few thousand years of humans slowly learning to hear their own thoughts as their own. So the next time it speaks up, narrating, worrying, reminding you where this was going, notice it. That quiet little voice is the newest, strangest, most borrowed thing about you. It feels like the one thing that is fully only you. It might be the one thing that was given to you by everyone else.